So why don't we just go ahead and get started? Guys, if you don't know, AridecanWife, I hope I pronounced it right this time. How is it pronounced?
AridecanWife. Yes, AridecanWife.
Aridecan. All right. If you don't know AridecanWife, welcome to the show. This is where I get to interview people and find out more about my wonderful friends that are online and, put more than just a text box and a face on Twitch to people. But she is a crafter, a bead crafter, jeweler, wife. I don't know if you're a family lady, but
No, I don't have any kids.
you stream, you don't do YouTube. I think that's about it I could do for an intro, unless you had an intro.
So, yeah, I'm a AridecanWife, and my husband is Aridecan Games. He's also a stream team member. So I started out on Twitch moderating for him, which is why my name is the way it is, because I didn't originally come on Twitch to actually stream. He was streaming on Twitch. He started in like 2019, 2020. Right as the pandemic was setting in, he wanted to do something, and I'm like, okay, I'll moderate for you, no big deal. And so I created this name because I literally could not think of anything else to use for a name at the time, and I figured, well, I'm only coming on here to moderate. What point is it having a different name? And then late 2021, in fact, my streamiversary is Saturday. Late
This
in
Saturday?
2021. Yep, 4 years.
Okay.
4 years this Saturday. So, 4 years ago in 2021, my husband said, "Oh, come on, you can stream. Give it a try. Give it a try." So, I said, "All right, I will." So I went on and started beading, and made affiliate 2 months later. And so I've been streaming since about the end of October of 2021, and slowly but surely, I have made a little community for myself here, and it's been fun. I've actually enjoyed it. I was afraid to do it at first. I actually came on my first stream, and thankfully nobody saw my hands because they were like shaking like this. But yeah, I was really nervous my first stream.
Okay. Why were you so nervous for your first stream?
So I get nervous when I talk to a bunch of people. If I haven't been around these people, it was my nervousness with people stems a lot from my childhood. I was bullied a lot, so being around people meant that I had a chance to get bullied. So it took me a bit to get into the thought process and wrapping my head around the concept of streaming, which is why I didn't start streaming right away. It took my husband like 8 months of convincing me for me to start doing it. So, that's where that started.
So you're nervous around people. Are you nervous right now?
No, not right now. No, because I
Okay,
know
because
you, Zammy.
a
I
lot
know
of
you.
people actually are nervous to come on the show, and I always am curious as to why people are so. I don't want to say nervous around me, but why do I have that aura, if you would call it that?
I'm not nervous around you, Zammy. I mean, you're my adopted Twitch brother. I mean, I have two adopted Twitch brothers, you and Pix.
All
So,
right,
it's like
that's fair. Some people don't consider me their adopted Twitch brother. There's very few people that actually do consider me their adopted Twitch brother, but that's okay. So I do know that you are a very excellent bead and gem worker. I know I've seen it a lot. What got you into doing bead work and gem work?
okay, so that's a bit of a long story.
Okay,
So
go
I
ahead. We're
will
here
go
for
ahead
several
and
minutes.
explain it. So when I was 9, I was sitting at my grandmother's house. My grandmother always had different crafty stuff around to entertain the grandkids. Um, so I was like one of like 20 plus grandkids that she had, because my grandmother had 6 kids. So, grandkids happen. And so that being said, she always had crafty stuff around for grandchildren. So I'm sitting at her table one day. It's pouring cats and dogs outside. She's got myself, my sister, and my brother at the table. Now, I was 9, my sister was 7. That meant my brother was about 4.5 years old, give or take. And because there's about 4.5, 5 years between myself and my little brother. And we're sitting there, and she brings out all of these beads, like this big ass honking container of plastic beads. Now, when you're 9, a big ass honking container of plastic beads is like heaven, okay? And she brought out, at that point, it was dental floss. Now, dental floss is actually pretty strong shit. And so she lays down, says, okay, you're going to make necklaces. Okay, fine. I'd never done it a day in my life. I came from a family that didn't exactly have money for supplies, so crafting was something that didn't happen too often. So here, hey, grandma just handed me and said, go ahead, make a necklace. So I started stringing things, and I found I liked it. I enjoyed it. And so as I got older, up into my preteen and teen years, I was babysitting for extra money. I would take that money and I'd go buy beads. And I'd string necklaces and do things. I taught myself how to do brick stitch. I taught myself different things using diagrams because I'm actually somewhat dyslexic. So reading instructions is like torture, absolute torture for me. So if something has good diagrams, I can learn based on the diagram. And so I did that all through high school. Just, buying beads here and there, random beads, doing things I enjoyed, making just random little stuff. Got into college and got a little bit more serious about things. And, taught myself how to do loom work with with beads, and started checking out books at the library, looking at
Do
them,
you
saying, oh, hey,
actually
this looks
have a
cool. Let's
loom,
try this.
or do you like hand loom? Like, how does that work?
So a bead loom is like this thing right here.
Yeah,
Okay, this is a bead loom. So the threads come and they get attached down here,
yeah.
and they go over this, and they come up here and they attach up here. And then you weave the beads across the threads that you've put in place.
Okay. That
I
seems
don't have a
less
piece with me
loomy
to
than
show
I
you.
would have figured, but the only thing I've ever used a loom for is a video game. So what do I know?
And there's different kinds of bead looms. Some are small, some are big. Um, but I started doing that. And then I went to an art show when I was right about the beginning of graduate school. It was the summer before graduate school. My parents took me to an art show up in the city of Rochester, New York. Now, we lived at the time outside of Rochester, and they took me to an art show, and somebody there had this gorgeous, absolutely stunning piece of bead embroidered jewelry. And it was this massive necklace. And it just kind of hit me like a ton of bricks at that moment that I wanted to learn how to do that. But at the time, there was nothing out there as far as resources to teach me how to do it. So I had to wing it. And so I started out with sewing thread, beads that I had gotten from the local AC Moore craft store, which no longer exists, and a piece of leather I had bought from there. I learned very fast you don't want to be doing beadwork on leather if you don't have the proper needles, the proper thread, and other things,
How
because
do you
you
bead
break
on
needles
like,
like
was it a
crazy.
strip of leather or like a chunk?
It was like a square of leather. It was like a
Yeah.
square.
The kind that Derek
And
would use.
yeah, something like that. And it was a more supple leather than what Derek would use, but it was still leather. And I basically didn't know a lot and glued a stone down to it and started trying to stitch beads around it. Thankfully, in my few years later, I tore the whole thing apart, salvaged the stones from it and everything, because it was an utter piece of shit, that first one. Um,
Usually is. For
it
the
looked
first one
awful.
always seems to be the mess up and the
It
screw up.
looked
Yeah.
awful. And it wasn't until probably a couple of years later that I started realizing that, hey, bead embroidery doesn't have to be done on leather. Okay, it can be done on all sorts of things. And I happened upon felt. And I started beading on felt, and it was like this world opened up, because suddenly it was like, oh, I can bead on this, I can make stuff on this. And I found out there are many different things that people like to bead on doing bead embroidery. Not everybody makes jewelry. Some people make literally wall tapestries out of this stuff. Some people bead embroider their clothing.
Yeah.
I just happen to do jewelry because it's more portable and more wearable, and that sort of thing. Um, like right now, I'm working on a piece. I'll hold it up. This is what's been on my beading mat for my streams recently.
Wasn't that also no? That was your camera that was showing it. I was like, isn't that also your background on Discord? But no, if you guys
No.
don't weren't watching the Twitch introduction, I got to see that on her desk.
So, anyways, that's some of what I do. I have other pieces over here that are hanging out. I also have done things like this. This I need to get shipped out to my adopted Twitch son, Ian's Crafts. This is a tie I made for him.
Okay, that looks pretty cool for a tie.
He wanted something that was rainbow. He got
Yeah,
rainbow.
yeah.
So, and his favorite color is blue. So he got blue and rainbow all in one.
That's quite the necklace there. I don't wear jewelry. Like I have a Garmin step tracker, and that's the only thing I wear. I'm a safety guy, so I've seen the bad things about jewelry, and that's why I stay away from it. But I always look at how other people have such cool things, and I go, I could never wear that because I could only imagine being at work and I bend over and that goes into a chemical
Yeah,
or
see,
into a
there's
computer
only
machine.
if you have a desk job like I do, you could wear something like that, you know? Obviously, certain places you can't wear this sort of thing. You know,
Naturally.
Ian's only going to wear it as a tie to special occasions.
Ooh, that would make sense because I feel like it would actually fall apart if you wore it too often.
Yeah. That wouldn't fall apart so much, but it probably is going to hang down to, down to here someplace. So it's not something that you're going to be wearing all the time. And since he has two other pieces of mine that he wears as ties as well.
How is
It
he getting
started
so
out he
lucky to get
actually
so
won
many
a piece
pieces
in a
from you?
giveaway on 9.5 stream,
That's one.
and that's how it started. He got one, and then he became one of my moderators, and I made him one on a Blue Peter site as a thank you gift. And we've developed a nice friendly relationship, and I kind of adopted him as my Twitch son because, you know, I'm old enough to be his mom anyway, so it worked. It was like,
Yeah.
here, I will take you. You will be my son.
But
So I
you
made
know
him a
you can
Christmas gift.
actually change your Twitch name so you don't have to be the wife and mother. You could be our Aradecan mother even. You could change your name every
Oh, I
six
could. I
months.
could. I had thought about changing my Twitch name to be the same as what I have on Discord.
Okay, that might be clever. I wonder if you would want to put an underscore. I don't know if you want to identify what your name was on Discord or not, but
Oh,
um,
people know who I am on Discord usually, especially on my stream. I'm Enchanted Regalia on Discord. That actually is my former business name. I actually used to have a jewelry business when I lived in Arizona, and I closed up the business in early 2019 because my full time job was sucking up a lot of my time, and I didn't have time to devote to the business. The business wasn't really making money anyways. So I just said, well, that's an easy fix. Let's just close the business and move forward. I literally was spending more money on fees to Artfire every year to keep the site going than I was actually selling in merchandise on there. And I said, fuck this. You
is
know,
that like
um,
Etsy? What is
yeah,
Artfire?
Artfire is an Etsy clone.
Okay.
And I had a shop on there for over 5 years. And I literally sold 6 items, I think, the entire 5 years. So I said, screw this, you know? And at that point, it was one of those things where I just said, I gave up. I was like, you know what? I'm not making money on here. I can post all the different things on social media I want. Nobody's buying. Screw this. So I closed it down and just devoted myself to my full time job. But along the way, I learned a lot of things, not just with Artfire, but learning on my journey of learning bead embroidery. Um, I started experimenting more and more, and finding felt like I said was a boon because I started stitching on that. I find I like it. It works well for me. I do use fake leather on the back of pieces. The fake leather,
Why
as you'll
fake
see, this
leather?
is a fake leather that looks sort of like a kind of crocodile skin. I'll hold it
Yeah.
down here a little bit more.
But why
So,
why do you use fake leather?
because I find it's easier to get the needle through it. It's so much easier to get the needle through it. Plus, it's more of a vinyl, so it's got a little bit more waterproofing to it. So if somebody's sweating as they're wearing it, that sweat doesn't get absorbed into the piece.
Okay. I know what you mean. I have a cowboy hat that has a leather patch on the top of the hat. I
Yeah.
sweat, I'm bald, it gets into the leather, and the hat reeks of wet leather. It's never stopped reeking of wet leather because, first off, if I take that out, the hat's going to fall apart. But yeah, I get what you mean by it just gets absorbed into the leather and it stains, and it sometimes leaves a mark on my head as well. Yep.
Yeah. So I just said, I'm going to use fake leather. Plus, it's cheaper. It's a lot cheaper in price. I can go on places like Amazon and AliExpress. I can even go to a local fabric store and buy a giant, uh, 1 meter square piece of fake leather for like $20 versus a
Yeah.
1 meter square of actual hide is going to probably run me like $200. I mean, the cost difference there is immeasurable.
How does Derek
So
afford to do all of his leather working then? Because he does a lot.
I don't know. I don't ask those questions. Those are questions I don't ask them. Sometimes I don't want to know
I should bring
answers.
him on for another week and ask him all these leather working questions
You
then.
should. You should. You really should. So so I've made a lot of jewelry with the bead embroidery. And when I got out of graduate school in 2001, I ran into a wall. Nobody wants to hire an anthropologist and a historian because that's what my
Why
degrees
did
are
you
in.
take anthropology slash history?
So I started out in biology in college. I wanted to be a microbiologist. I wanted to work on cancer research and AIDS research and things like that because I've known people who have died from those diseases. Okay. And I got to college. I could not do the math classes to fucking save myself. Literally, I could not do the math. I mean, it was like somebody put this block in front of me. Math me not working. Okay. So I tried so hard to do the math. I literally went for extra help to try to learn it, and I couldn't get through it. Just could not get through it. And so I finally realized I was screwed and I needed to change my major. And so I went for other things that I enjoyed. And I happened to be taking an anthropology course at the time and said, "Oh, I like this. This is fun." And it was right up my alley because it was right along the same vein as history classes I was taking that I enjoyed. I've always loved history classes. Even when I was in high school, I was a history nut. So I ended up double majoring in history and anthropology, which put me through an extra year of undergraduate school because you're doing a double major in two very serious, heavy subjects. And I graduated with my bachelor's in that, and I went on to graduate school and decided I would go for archaeology. Now, nothing wrong with that if you have the ability to find an archaeologist to work with who you actually vibe with and can learn from that's on the faculty, and B, nothing wrong with that if you know you can get a job when you get out. That's the problem. There are no jobs out there for that. Zero, unless you know somebody really well who just happens to know somebody who has a position open, whatever.
I
It's,
could see it.
as my
Like,
father used to say, it's all who you know and who you blow.
well, that's true, but I hope that you don't have to blow people in
I
archaeology.
haven't. I haven't. But that being said, um, I couldn't find an archaeologist to work with in graduate school. I couldn't even find one as an advisor when I started out. I started out with this one person, and she turned out to be an absolute witch. And, when it comes to people being toxic, she was right up there. And I said, okay, I'm not working with you. So I went off on my own for like the next year and a half, doing my own thing, making sure I was taking the classes I needed to take to graduate. And my last semester there, I got basically hammered by the guy who is the head of the graduate organization. He says, "You need an advisor. You don't have an advisor." And I'm like, "Well, get me one that I can actually work with, you know." And an Andean archaeologist stepped up to the plate. And this was a guy who I was taking a random class with. And I had so much fun in his class, but by that point, I was basically done with graduate school. I had not done any archaeology work. I had done more sociocultural anthropology work than actual archaeology. So I ended up with a master's, not in archaeology, but in sociocultural anthropology. And so I left graduate school because I was absolutely burnt out by that point from dealing with toxic people. Had my degree and said, fuck this. Went off into the world of work, tried to find jobs, and ended up working retail because you need to pay the bills somehow.
Yeah.
And they were the first people that would look at me and say, oh, they wouldn't tell me, oh, you're all overqualified. You don't know how many times I got that told to me every time I applied for a job. You're overqualified.
I actually do know. I'm trying to find a minimum wage job to help with my retirement, and even temporary positions for Christmas. I'm overqualified because I'm a director of health, safety, security, and environment, and I'm just applying for minimum wage jobs because I just need extra income, and I'm
Yeah.
overqualified, and I'm just sitting here like. I'm asking for minimum wage. I'm not asking for like $20 an hour. What is wrong with this? Just like give me a shot. Because of my overqualifications of being a safety guy, I feel like I should be a step above a teenager that doesn't give a crap. But hey, I get it. I fully get it. Being
Yeah.
overqualified is such a kick in the pants.
It is. It is. It's like, wait a minute, I just put myself into debt because I went to school in the States. Okay. I'm a US citizen by birth. I went to school in the States. I put myself into debt. Okay. By the time I was finally able to earn enough money to pay down my student loans, I owed over 124,000 to the government in student loans. So that's murderous.
That's a lot of money. Holy shit.
Yeah. Yeah. So be that as it may, with I had to have some kind of job. I needed a job. I didn't care what the hell it was at that point. And retail was one of the few places that didn't say you're overqualified to me. So I started out actually at J.C. Penney's. I was there 2 months, told my boss where she could stick herself in no short order, and left because she was one of those toxic people that likes to talk about you behind your back and then goes over to the other person that she just badmouthed and talks about you behind, to them. It's like, okay, I don't know what your problem is, but clearly I should not be working for you. And I left. Now, by that point, I had already started working part-time at Michael's. I was actually juggling 2 retail jobs. So Michael's, I went over to them. They took me on full-time. And I started working for them. And that's when I started finding out, oh, hey, cool. There are actually books on bead embroidery out here. They actually do exist. I mean, we're still talking early years. The internet wasn't an infant anymore, but it was a toddler. There was still a lot of stuff that wasn't out there.
Yeah.
Okay, we're talking 2001 here. This is not, this was 24 years ago. So I actually started finding books on it. So I started reading and learning more and teaching myself more stitches and more techniques and things to do. And I realized that there was this whole world out there of people that were doing this. And maybe they did different forms of it. Some didn't do jewelry, some did other things. But it was great. It was wonderful. And so I started learning everything I could. Oh, there's books on the shelf on peyote sticks. Great. Start reading through. Oh, good. There's diagrams I can understand right there. Yep. Okay. I would buy a book specifically if the diagrams were ones I could understand. If I could understand the diagrams, the book became mine. So that's how I taught myself everything, was reading books. Eventually, things online started picking up. You started being able to find more information. and I was able to go out online and find diagrams that people posted of how they did things and learn from there. But I started out completely with just winging it and reading the books that I found early on, because there was nothing online initially. And then going forward, I got to 2011 and I did something really wild. I did something that was completely out of character for me at the time, because I was not the kind of person to want to do this sort of thing. I decided to enter a beading competition, an international beading competition, just for the shits and
International.
giggles of it. Yeah, international beading competition through Fire Mountain Gems.
I don't know what that is,
Okay.
but I assume it's very prestigious anyways.
It was. I don't know if they're still all that prestigious, but at the time it was up there. And I remember waiting to see what the results were, figuring that, I'm not going to win anything. They sent me a letter and said, please send us your piece. We want to look at it further. We think it's really cool. I had done this piece called My Chinese Zodiac, because I'm a dragon. I'm a fire dragon in the Chinese Zodiac. So I said, cool. All right. Sent them my piece. Didn't hear anything for months. All of a sudden, I get this email in my inbox. Hey, results for the contest have been posted. So I go there thinking, yeah, I'm not going to see my piece anywhere on this. I'm a beginner. I'm, not like any of these people here that have entered this. I'll be lucky if I make honorable mention.
Yeah.
I was shocked as shit to see myself as grand prize silver.
Is that first
Okay, my
place?
first contest ever. That is second best in show.
Okay. I was like, what is silver? Silver second place? Because Grandmaster sounds like you won. And then silver sounds like you got second place. So you got best overall?
It was second best in show. So gold.
Second best.
So grand
Okay.
prize gold would be best in show. I
Yeah.
got grand prize silver, which was right under that.
So then why do they call it grand prize and not just gold and silver? Is there a difference?
Well, they had
first and
regular
second?
gold and silver ranks too.
How do you get gold and silver then?
I don't know. I don't know how to explain why and how they rank things. I've never quite understood their ranking system for who gets what. So I just, I was shocked. I remember sitting at my computer and seeing that, and I screamed. I literally screamed, and my mother comes running into my room. She's like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" And I'm like pointing at my screen. I can't even get the words out of my mouth. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm like doing this.
And of course
my father comes running.
Yeah.
And I'm pointing at the thing on my screen, and my mother looks at it and goes, "Oh my God." And my father goes, "I knew you could do it."
Yeah.
And, it was just shocking to me.
So what was the prize for it? Was there money? Was there a trip?
At that time, they were still doing the larger prizes, so I had a $750 gift certificate to their website to buy supplies.
Ooh, that's a lot of supplies.
It was a nice, cushy prize.
Yeah.
Best in show, which is the grand prize gold, gets a $1,000 gift certificate.
Okay, and I assume third bronze, whatever, is $250.
Yeah, so that's how they did things, and they've revamped it. By the way, they revamped it during the pandemic, and grand prize gold now gets $500. So they kind of cheapened out a bit.
I get it. I mean, it isn't as big as it used to be, I imagined, especially with COVID. I imagine everybody was interested in COVID, and so it got a bit too much for them.
So anyways, that was my first contest win. And after that, I felt encouraged. I started doing more and more pieces. And over the next several years, I racked up a grand prize gold, a grand prize bronze, a grand prize president's choice, grand prize employee's choice, several regular gold and silver prizes, and also a few bronzes. So I had and then finally I got to 2017, which was the year that I started back to work after getting married in 2014. And I got burned out. I literally got burnt out and I had to step back because literally I work on one contest piece, finish it, submit it, and I literally start work on the next one. And
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that, except that I wasn't able to get to the projects that I wanted to get to do for myself personally. I was always doing contest pieces.
Were
And
the
eventually
contests
it
like
just,
themed, or did they have a specific piece that you had to do?
so they didn't have themes other than they had categories. You could do Swarovski crystal, you could do glass beads, you could do seed beads, you could do, um, at the time, I think they also had a gemstone category. And they've kind of changed their categories over the years. So some of those categories have been blended into others now. But they've just kind of like changed them over time. And I got burnt out in 2017 and I said, okay, I'm doing this for the wrong reasons now. And I stepped back and, I did very little beadwork during the next 5 years. Very little. I didn't pick up anything until basically my husband said, hey, you might want to stream your beadwork. And that's actually how I got back into doing beadwork on a regular basis instead of just, one or two projects a year, was because my husband said, hey, try streaming this. So that's how I got back into it. But yeah, it was very, it was draining initially when I got the burnout.
Yeah.
I still wanted to buy supplies. I still wanted to buy the stones and everything. I knew that eventually I would get back into it. I just didn't know when. And I did a
Okay.
couple custom orders during that burnout phase, for some friends and stuff. I didn't completely stop my beading. Um, but yeah, I got back into it and really enjoyed it. And, you know, that's where I come to now, where I am beading because I don't sell my work. I'll do a custom order for somebody, but I don't sell my work online. I don't have a website. Um,
So what do you do with all of it?
a lot of it I either give away as gifts, I use as donations to charity auctions, or I wear myself.
Okay, I get it. Like for the I want to call it the partner push, but the PP stuff that the Mokos do, or like you were
Yeah,
mentioning with Ian, your mod, giving them some stuff like that. That
yeah.
sounds pretty cool. Would you
I've
think
also
about
given up. I've given stuff away for Starlight Children's Foundation. People have done auctions for that. People have done
yeah?
auctions for St. Jude, and I've donated for that as well.
Would you think about doing something like that for a significant period of like subscribers, like 2 years, 5 year sub? Where you would you make something
I
like
do
that?
have a channel point thing, like 200,000 channel points for a pair of custom earrings. Um, you know,
What about
I'm
people like me that don't have pierced ears?
you wouldn't I don't think you'd be wearing any of my stuff, Sam.
What if I have a nice wedding to go to?
What, you want to tie like Ian's? Just
Uh,
just 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 not in rainbow?
Probably not in rainbow, but no, because I actually like regular silk ties. I love that how it covers the buttons, so I don't have to worry about any gaps showing. So I probably wouldn't do a tie, but I don't know. I know, chat. I'm not going to pierce my ears for a $200,000 channel point redemption. That's not going to happen. That would have to be like something miraculous that I fundraise for to get my ears pierced.
Incidentally, I can find what um, clip-on earring findings, so you wouldn't need to pierce your ears.
I'm being told to ask you about bolo ties. Is that like the cowboy ties that are leather and
On a
has a
leather
bead on
cord,
it?
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Okay.
And I see my hubby is the one asking you about them.
It might be a little bit of a dig there that I pulled that one out of, but yeah, fair enough. So I have to ask, what is your biggest project for beading that you've done so far?
Oh boy, I have several big projects. One of which is buried over here on the other desk because I'm waiting to find a wizard that I had bought to put into it. It's
A
actually a
wizard?
necklace that lights up with LED lights, and I have a wizard that's going to go on it. I was going to make it as a contest piece for Fire Mountain, and because the more big and ostentatious and outrageous, the better they like them. And so it's a giant piece with a agate slice in it with LED lights behind the agate to light it up. And so that's what that one is like. But I have some other large pieces that are currently still packed away from my move that are massive.
You say wizard. I want to make sure that we're talking about, the
The
white
pointy
felt
hat
hat.
variety that casts spells, yes.
So is that like a sticker that you would put on? Like how's
No,
it
no,
a
no. This
wizard?
is a physical pin that was made by an artist. It's a piece of costume jewelry. It is pewter, which is a kind of metal
Yeah.
that looks like a wizard holding out his hand. I actually bought a crystal ball to go into his hand. He is going to be mounted on that agate slice that has the backlighting. And then I actually have an extra LED that's going to go up behind his arm and go into the crystal ball and light up the crystal ball.
That is beyond crazy and creative. How are you this creative? Like what inspired you to make something like that?
So I come from a long line of creative people. My father is by education a graphic artist. He's long since retired now. Um, he grew up painting, sculpting, drawing. Um, he's very, very good at all that. Unfortunately, about 15 years ago, he had to give up drawing and painting and all of that because due to an injury he had at work, he had multiple neck surgeries and stuff, and he can no longer hold anything without literally shaking like this. So he can't do any of that anymore.
That's rough. I know people like that. You'd be surprised how many work injuries that first off I see, second off the people actually go through, because you don't really notice how many people get hurt at work until you know somebody specifically that gets hurt.
Yeah. So, and then my mother has always done things like quilting and crochet and knitting, and
And
she
your
tried
grandma.
each. What?
And your grandma also was good at beading and did all that sort of stuff as
Well, my
well.
grandmother did a lot of random crafts. This is my paternal grandmother. She did a lot of random crafting. She would do things like potpourri. I never saw her crochet or knit.
So potpourri, I thought was a spice. What is potpourri?
So potpourri, she would go and take flowers from her garden, like roses and stuff, dry them, break them up, mix essential oils in with it, and then put it in sachets and sell them.
Okay, fair
That's
enough.
that's what she did in her retirement. I don't ask questions. She's been gone since 2004. So,
Well, you
um,
can't ask questions now, so that's unfortunate.
yeah, exactly. So that being said, so anyways, she did a lot of things like she'd make doll clothes and sell them. She always was doing little crafty things like that. Now, I never met my mom's parents. They were dead before she even got married to my father. So that I never knew them. I don't know what they were into, what they liked to do. That was just never something that was brought up in conversation. I know my mother, she likes to crochet, she likes to knit, she's done cross stitch, she's done quilting. My father has been the one who's been the painter, the person who does the drawing, he's sculpted. So I was born into this family of people with artistic, kind of creative backgrounds. And so, from a very young age, if I expressed an interest in learning how to do some kind of artwork, my parents were like, "Oh yes, here's your watercolors. Oh, you want to learn how to do what was drawing? My father gave me pencils and paper, and just let me do it." And that was great. That was excellent. I used to spend hours doing that stuff as a kid. And when I got into school, the teachers were like, "She's always doing all this stuff that's really great in art class. She sucks at math." You know? And that was like the constant theme throughout school. She sucks at math and gym, but boy, can she paint. Or, back and forth, things like that.
Yeah.
And that was the constant theme up through school. But One of the things that really influenced me to start making my own jewelry was growing up, I kept hearing the phrase, we can't afford that. Now, both my parents had high school diplomas. My father went to some year-long little program to learn graphic arts and do different things with graphic arts. My mother took random courses here and there when she could, when her employers offered them, and basically worked herself up from a lowly secretary position into like an administrative assistant. Okay. And that's what she did her whole life until she retired. And she retired during the pandemic at age 70. So she kept working, kept going. And they never really earned a lot of money. Okay. I remember my father being unemployed more often than I remember him being employed. My mother was always the breadwinner. She was always out working a job, but, you know, it's hard to feed a family of three, pay rent, pay all the bills, and have money for things like art supplies when you're earning $17 an hour and, you know, your husband's bringing in minimum wage and that's it. You know, there's only so much you can do when you're trying to feed and house three kids. And so I heard the phrase, we can't afford that, a little too often growing up. So I made a vow to myself as a teenager when I was earning money from babysitting that when I got to be an adult, that phrase was never going to come from my mouth when it came to my artwork. If I knew that I could afford something, I would get it and do my artwork. I would make my own jewelry so I wouldn't have to hear somebody say, we can't afford that. And so I taught myself the different techniques over and over so that way I would know how to do something. I've done metal clay, I've done wire work, I've worked with leather, I have done all sorts of things to teach myself how to do things so that way when I want something, I can make it for myself and I never have to hear those words, we can't afford that.
That's
You know,
crazy.
I put
Because one of
myself
my
through school
yeah,
so that I wouldn't have to hear those words.
one of the questions I had, which was one of the biggest ones, especially seeing as I've seen you work with sapphires and rubies and all that. I'm like, how is this not expensive? How do
So
you afford
there's
all these gemstones?
So yes, the stones can get pricey. I have paid over $300 or more for a stone before. It's not unheard of for me to do that. I try to keep most of my stones under $100. So the rubies, the sapphires, those are all non-gem grade. Those are the grade that they would often grind up for sandpaper. And some enterprising individuals in places like India and China and Malaysia have gone forward and they take those and cut them into stones, even though they're not the nice, beautiful, eye clear stones that you would see in rings and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what I buy and use because I honest to God, can't afford a ruby that big that's regular gem grade. That is probably more than one of my paychecks.
Yeah.
But a non gem grade ruby, no problem. I can do that.
That's crazy.
So, you know, that's, yes, I do use that stuff, but I get the non gem grade stuff and it's still pretty. It's still gorgeous. It's just not valued as a gem on the gem market because it isn't clear and pretty looking and, you know, all that stuff.
So how did you learn about all these different types of gems and how to use them? Like that, was that part of your archaeology or your schooling, or was that just the
So,
books?
very funny thing. I've always been interested in stones and rocks since I was like in third or fourth grade. My mother used to freak out because I'd come home from school with pockets full of rocks from the playground. And this drove her nuts because she'd often find them in her washing machine.
Yeah.
So I learned slowly over time, even as a kid, I started looking at different things. Geology books fascinated the shit out of me. So I'd pick up a geology book and start looking at all the pictures of the pretty rocks. You know, oh, that looks great. That's cool. Let's see if I can pronounce the name of that, you know? And I'd start learning about things like the crystal structure, what made it up, you know, because I've always had a very scientifically oriented mind as well. So science classes, I ate those up in high school. Ate them up in college too until I couldn't do the math to save myself. And so very interested in rocks, always thought they were cool. Joined a geology club when I was in graduate school and started learning about gemstones quite a bit there. And then after graduate school, I started buying books and reading them on gemstones and stuff. And then things called forums started appearing online. You know, we're talking, you know, the toddler period of the internet. I started finding forums that I could join. And I joined up to various forums on rock hounding and gemstones and gemstone cutting. And there are a lot of people on there that had been cutting gemstones for decades, and they were a wealth of information. And I just sort of soaked it up like a sponge. I would read their postings. I would go and say, okay, they talked about this stone. Let me go look that up online, or let me look that up in one of my books. And I just soaked it up. It was fun. It gave me something to do, especially since, you know, I'd come home from work and I would be exhausted. And it was great. I could do whatever, you know, I could take that information and then I'd start looking out online to see if I could find these stones to buy or if any of my friends, because I have cultivated friendships over the past 2 decades online with people who cut stones. And they often have a wealth of information to share with you about the stones they're cutting. I mean, if you ask a few well placed questions, a lot of these people are going to talk to you for hours on what they're cutting.
And you won't be able to stop them.
Exactly. Exactly. So that's that is precisely what happened. And I learned a lot, a heck of a lot. And so that's how I learned a lot about the stones that I work with. And, you know, I actually seriously at one point thought of going into geology in college when I was questioning my biology major. But then I looked and said, oh, they want me to do just as much math as the biology major did. We're going to not even look at that because I don't do math. Okay. If it's anything past basic addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, we're fucked. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll be honest there. Math and me are not friends. So I mean, I can do the basics. Basics we're good with. Basics is what gets me through life. And there's Pix. There's my other bro. There's my other bro. Hey, Pix.
Thank you for the sub picks. So that leads to my next question.
Yeah.
What do you think, in your professional opinion, is the best gem?
Best gem. Wow. Oh, wow.
You can go by like the coolest, the most colorful, whatever you think is the best. Your opinion.
So I think that Montana sapphires are highly underrated. People don't know they exist, but Montana actually has a source of sapphires. And sapphires are a hardness of 9 on the Mohs scale. Mohs scale goes from 1 to 10, 10 being a diamond. And the thing is, diamonds are overrated too. They're some of the most plentiful stones out there. And yeah, he brings up Montana sapphires there on Twitch. That's awesome.
I wanted to see and show what they are.
Yeah, Montana sapphires are very beautiful. And they come in a range of colors. They come from colorless to yellow to blue. There's even been a few brown and orange ones
Apparently
out there.
There's green ones
that have been
too.
Found. And they're a hardness of 9. They're very good for rings and anything that takes a lot of abuse. And they're very pretty.
Why are they called Montana sapphires instead of just
because
regular
they're mined
sapphires?
in Montana.
Oh, so it's literally just where they're from.
Yeah, that's literally where they're from. That's why they're called Montana sapphires. And
there's an
I think it's an
all-American
underrated stone
sapphire
because
collection.
people think all the sapphires come out of like Asia or Africa, and it's not the case. There's a lot of beautiful sapphires mined in Montana.
Huh. That's crazy. I know we mine a bunch up here in Canada as well.
Hey,
But anyways,
you have a stone in Alberta that I literally like drool over because you have amolite. You have amylite, which
We
is
have a
the
lot of it.
fossilized opalized shell of an ammonite.
Yep, we
That is
have a
actually
ton of it.
Canada's national stone.
Is it our national stone? I wouldn't have
It
known that,
is.
but I know we have tons of it because the oil sands, we have Royal, the Drumheller area that literally is known for all of the fossils. So we dig up a lot of amylite.
Yeah, amylite is actually a protected stone. It is Canada's national stone. There are mines for it, and it is very expensive. I
Yep.
have worked with pieces of it. I do have a few sources online that I trust that I get pieces through on both eBay and Etsy. There's also a couple local dealers I get it from here in BC. There's one in Nanaimo that I sometimes get stones from, and
Well, the
they
hardest
cut all
part
the stones
about
themselves.
amylite, if I'm correct, those are all fossils.
Yes, they
So
are.
they're not. They are, but they aren't really the regular like gemstones that you would think of because those are
Yeah.
typically
So
rocks and stuff. So
the shell part of it is what is the actual gemstone because it's actually opal.
yep.
The shell has fossilized actual opal, and that is the actual gemstone. So it that's why it's got that color play across it, and when you put it in the light different ways, it will actually show different colors. It's really pretty. Yes, opals are fragile, exactly.
Yep. Yep.
This is
So
why when you buy a piece of amylite on the market, it's either covered in clear quartz or it's covered in a very eye clear epoxy, depending on the size of the piece.
I've always seen epoxy. I haven't seen the quartz. I feel like the quartz would be a natural covering.
So the quartz caps they usually do on the much smaller stones. They do the epoxy on the larger stones because it's hard to find pieces of quartz that big that are eye clear that you can,
You can
cover a
see
stone
through,
with.
and you can see the colors. Yeah. Fair
Yeah.
enough. My next question. This is going to be a hard one for you. I thought I was clever thinking up this question. What gemstone do you think best represents me?
Really?
Yep.
You thought that was hard?
I thought I was clever.
Leopard skin jasper.
What the hell is leopard skin? It better not be what I'm thinking it is. Leopard skin jasper. Meanings and crystal properties. Wow, I'm a basic rock. I hate that. I found so many of these while I was
No,
camping
you need to
one
find the
day.
polished stones of it, dude.
I see the
Scroll down,
polished
there's actual
stones.
polished stones of it. You need to look at the polished stones.
The marbles are pretty cool.
It literally looks like leopard skin. That's why they call it leopard
That,
skin jasper.
naturally. And they're basic, they're common up here is what I want to say.
No, they're not. This stuff is usually mined in Africa.
I don't know. I feel like I found leopard stone in the river.
You might have found an orbicular jasper in the river.
Possibly, but I consider this a basic bitch ass rock. I'm now offended. How dare you? You might as well have said quartz. God damn. Might as well have said.
You are so full of shit.
Yeah. What is that? Calcium chloride. That would have been a better rock. I'm salty. Jeez.
Give me 1 second. I'm pulling up leopard skin jasper. I am going to show you.
I can't believe you're saying I'm a basic rock. I tell you what.
I'm not
What would
calling
you
you a basic rock,
What
dude.
gem would you call Pix?
Pix is a topaz.
I could see that actually. And I definitely see your husband as granite.
My husband is granite.
Yep.
I have never told him what his stone is. He's never asked.
He literally in chat said she says mine's granite. And I said
I have never
I can
said
see
yours
it.
is granite. Never. His favorite color is green. I see my husband as adventuring, which is a green stone.
That's fair. Interesting. So what is the main difference between Canadian and American gems? Because I know you have different suppliers for both.
Okay, so the difference honestly is right now the biggest difference is the shit at the border. There's certain things I can get across and certain things I can't. Okay, shit got real.
Is it because of the tariffs and stuff that they put in
That's
place?
part of it, yes. Last time I ordered in stones from the US, I ended up having to go over to the local Canada Post place, and quite literally, I had to pay to get the package,
Yep.
which was annoying as piss.
Yep.
I've never had to do that before, and suddenly I had to pay 17 bucks tax on a $76 declared package. And I said, fuck this.
Yep.
Fuck this on so many levels.
I feel you.
So,
I got a package from America. I had to pay $20 extra just for tariffs, and I said, "There's no shot I'm buying anything from America again for an extra $20 shipping. That's crazy for
until the
nothing."
shit down there settles down, I'm not buying anything. My parents live in Western New York State. They can't even send me things because they're afraid I'm going to have to pay for it on this end.
You shouldn't, because that's personal between people. But when it comes from a company, that's when they jump on it from customs borders. So you
I'll
should
see
be
what
fine.
happens. I mean, I
That said, you have
my
to keep it
parents
under
want to send me my,
$100.
my birthday and Christmas gifts and stuff, which is actual merchandise.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see. I'll have to look things up because my parents haven't sent me anything in a long time because they're afraid that I'm going to have to pay for it on this end.
If they declare it as more than $100, that's when they'll charge you, or if it's coming from a company. So again, if they
Okay.
declare it less than 100, then it should be fine. However, if it gets lost, you won't get the full insurance if it's over more than 100. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to tell you how to cheat the system, but I did take a lot of courses, and I could have been a customs broker, but it didn't pay the bills at all. Customs brokering sucked. But anyways, so the main difference for you is the cost.
There's a cost difference. You can get a lot of the same stones either place.
Okay.
It's just that most of my stone cutting friends are in the US. I do
Okay.
have a couple of them up here. One of them I don't even know if he's still alive. I have to check in because I haven't heard from him in a dog's age. Um, and he was elderly. He was getting up there. He was retired. So I have no idea. I haven't
Yeah.
heard from him since like the pandemic. Um, but I also buy stones from overseas. So I go online, I go to like eBay and Etsy, and I buy stones from overseas because if I buy from places like China and India and Indonesia and Malaysia, I don't have any import duties or tariffs on those.
That's fair. I was going to
Um,
ask why you do that, but I imagine it's cheaper. Easily
it
cheaper.
is cheaper, especially if you're buying in bulk. However, you have to be very careful. You have to ask lots of questions because
Mm.
some of these overseas sellers will jump on the opportunity to take advantage of you.
I could easily see that, because I would see that market being entirely flooded with fakes and phonies.
Yeah. So you have to be very, very careful. You have to know what you're looking for. You have to know what things look like. China has become very good at faking things like malachite and turquoise and some of your higher end stones. They've become extremely good at faking them. So if you don't know what a fake looks like, when you go out online and go to buy things, you might get duped.
That's fair. So how do you determine what is fake and not?
So a lot of that is experience. Um, like I've learned to look at the different patterns in the stone and understand what is a fake pattern and what isn't. Like with malachite, if you look at real malachite, there's a lot of orbicular patterns, there's a lot of swirls, there's a lot of colors playing in and out as far as the different shades of green. If you look at the fake stuff, all the bands are almost equally spaced and almost straight, laying perpendicular to each other. There is no real pattern to it. Okay. And I've learned over time to distinguish the fakes from the real stuff based on the patterns in the stones. It takes a bit of time to teach yourself this stuff. This is not something I just learned in one day. Like I have stuff here that is fake, but when I use it, I label it as such. It is fake turquoise. It is fake whatever. I don't label it as the real thing. There are a lot of unscrupulous people out there online who will label it as the real thing when it's not. And that has gotten me into trouble before when I've gone out online, somebody has posted something they've made and they're listing it as real malachite. And I look at it and go, that's not real. I'm sorry that somebody duped you and sold you it saying it was real, but it ain't real. I had some lady accuse me of telling her that her art sucked. And I'm like, no, I didn't say your art sucked. Your art looks great, but the stone isn't real. There's a difference there.
Yeah. I get all my fake malachite from Durotar, the Elwyn Forest, the Barrens. This is what I like to call a joke because I used to play World of Warcraft.
Oh, see, I never played video games, so the reference is lost on me.
It's okay. Somebody in the audience will be like, I get the reference. I got it. Jack did ask a really good question that I don't want to skip past. What is your opinion on lab-grown gemstones?
Okay, so there's different kinds of lab-grown gemstones. You have the stuff that is truly synthetic, that has properties that are nothing like the original gemstone. Those are considered fake stones, okay? And if you're going to sell them, you need to label them properly. There are a lot of people out there that won't properly label them, and that's where we run into problems. I don't care if somebody wants to use a lab-grown stone that's a fake. Knock yourself out. Just properly label it. Say this is a lab-grown, fake, whatever, just, yeah, properly label it. Now, there's also synthetics out there that have the same chemical signature, same chemical properties, same components as the real deal. And chemically, they are the real deal. Okay, there are lab-grown sapphires, lab-grown diamonds, lab-grown rubies that are basically the same as the natural thing you dig out of the ground. But again, you have to disclose to the buyer that they are buying a lab-grown ruby or a lab-grown sapphire, whatever. So there's different. I have no problem with using those. I've used some lab-grown stuff before. It's just that you have to disclose to the buyer. You have to be honest to them what they're buying. Because you don't want somebody coming back to you, say, 10 years from now going, I took this ring to a jeweler and he said it's a fake stone. You sold me a scam. No, if you properly disclose to them when they bought it that, hey, that's a fake stone, they can't do that. They can't come back to you that way. But there are a lot of sellers, especially overseas, that will not tell you that you're buying something that's fake. They'll claim it's the real thing. So this right here.
Go ahead.
I'm going to hold this up. You see that green stone there?
You hold it to the wrong camera all the time. We only get one camera view.
Sorry. It's force of habit, okay?
It's all good.
So that's my engagement ring, okay? It's got a nice green stone in it. That started out with a different green stone in it, y'all, okay? That started out with an emerald in it. Now, the problem with emeralds, and this is something that I did not know at the time and that my husband didn't know at the time, this was back in 2014, is that emeralds have a lot of inclusions and fractures in them because of how they're formed and how they grow naturally. And because of this, they are fragile. Even though they're a hard stone, and they're technically like a 7.5, 8 in hardness, they fracture easily. So you hit that ring against something, maybe you're washing dishes, you hit it against the side of the sink, you could literally break that stone. This is something that we didn't know. 3 months after we got engaged, and almost 3 months after we got married, I'm standing in the shower one night. I looked down at my ring and I just about had a heart attack because half the stone was gone. It was just gone. I was like freaking out. Okay, all levels of freak out. Because here's this beautiful ring that my husband got me, and half the stone is gone.
And it's also a symbol of your love, and half of your love is gone too.
I wouldn't quite go that far, Zam, but
well, I
know,
would. I totally would. I would play that up so hard.
So I freaked out, and I took the ring off because I didn't want it to get damaged further. And I contacted one of my friends back east who has a jewelry store who does jewelry repair and other things. So I sent my ring to my parents and had them take it over to my friend. And he looked at it, and he looked. Obviously, the stone couldn't be saved, but he cleaned up the ring and he set it aside for when I came back east next. And my husband and I went there and we picked out a green stone. And the green stone we got was a green tourmaline, which is what is in here currently. Now, tourmaline can come in a wide range of colors. It can be almost colorless. It can be solid black. It can be what they call a watermelon tourmaline. And there's different colors. This one happens to be green. So we chose this, and it is still ticking. We will be married 12 years in January.
Congratulations.
So the green stone is still there. It is still alive. But yeah.
So I got a couple questions from chat to add on to that. First off, June, thank you for the raid. Welcome on in, guys. We're doing a podcast. We're talking to AridecanWife. She's a beater, crafter extraordinaire. She's talking about gemstones right now, which goes into next question by Sonori was, could a lab-grown emerald not have had the infractions the real stone would have? Could you not have replaced it with a synthetic?
So he had a lab-grown emerald at the shop.
Yeah.
When I took the ring to get it, when I took the ring to get the new stone, when we went there for my friend and showed him, he showed me a wide range of stones. They had a lab grown emerald. However, it was the wrong size. It was not as deep a green a color as we would have liked. And so we went with the slightly more expensive tourmaline because, as my friend pointed out, the lab-grown emerald, while it's less likely to break, it still would wear down pretty fast. So we decided that for the sake of not having to replace the stone again, we were going to go with the tourmaline.
How do you feel about the diamonds being used? Like, why did you pick an emerald in the first place? Or why did he pick
I'm not a fan of diamonds. I am not a fan of diamonds. Diamonds are actually not as rare as, the industry would like you to believe they are.
Yeah, but it's the industry accepted for marriage, right?
I don't do things in the industry accepted way, Sam.
That's fair.
I mean, when I got married, I did not get married in a white dress, okay? Our first wedding was with a justice of the peace. We went to a justice of peace in January 2014. I wore a black velvet dress. Hubby wore his suit. There's absolutely nothing traditional about that. Got married, and then because the families weren't there for that, we held a private little thing just for immediate family, okay, in February. And that I had a dress made for it, but I had a Renaissance themed dress in burgundy that I wore for that.
Why burgundy?
I love the color. It's like one of my favorite colors.
Is that what you're wearing right now? Because it doesn't look burgundy.
No, I'm wearing
far
red,
more
actually.
red. Okay. Interesting. So why did your husband go with the emerald in the first place?
Because that's his favorite color is green.
Oh, so he went with his favorite color, not your favorite color?
The thing is, when he went to get me a ring, so here's the funny thing. When he went to get me a ring, he didn't know what to do. He was totally clueless. So I gave him a list of links to rings on Amazon that I thought were pretty. The most expensive one was like 700 some odd dollars. Okay, we're not talking expensive rings here. You know, some people will pay a few $1,000s for an engagement ring. I think that's insanity.
Oh, it's because Mama is.
Okay, I think that's utter insanity.
Yeah.
So the most expensive one was like $700. The cheapest one was like 150. And so I just said, here's a list of like 20 rings that I think are pretty on Amazon. Pick one. I don't care, just pick one. And that's how I ended up with this. So, um, you know, that's how he did it. And one of them just happened to be a ring with an emerald in it.
Okay.
So there you go.
That's fair. That's a better story than what I was concocting in my head. I was just thinking he went out and got you a random ring with an emerald and was like, "It's close enough, honey."
No. He totally had no idea. And he's like, look, I want to do this, but I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to pick out a ring. I don't know any of this. I mean, so I was like, okay, fine. I know jewelry. I can give you a few pointers.
Okay.
Um,
How did your husband find out about Twitch and get you all involved in this in the first place?
so I don't know how he found out about Twitch. He just one day said, I'm streaming on Twitch tonight. I'm going to do this. I'm going to be playing a video game. I want you to come mod for me. And I'm like, all right, fine. I'll mod. No big deal. I can sit there and mod. I can do other things in the background, whatever. And so I don't know how he found Twitch. Okay. I just know that he started, you know, streaming and that was it.
Yeah.
So I
Interesting.
started going out around Twitch, seeing what other people were doing and streaming, and happened upon, people doing various things like knitting, crochet. One of the first streams I fell into was Amish Ace. And at the time, he was not a partner. At the time, he didn't have a lot of the crazy stuff on his stream that he does now.
Yeah.
And but I fell in there and I said, hey, okay, this is kind of a cool place to hang out from time to time. This is kind of awesome. And then I found Pan Fred Nudo and I found Astro Canuck and started hanging out with all these people and getting to know people and finding more streamers. And I found Moko Made through a raid that I went on.
From who?
I can't even remember who the hell it was. I mean, it was that fucking long ago. And so I remember going in there on a raid and I was like, okay, these people are cool. I'll hit the follow button, And so I started hanging out there. But by that point I was already a streamer. I had already been streaming like a year and a half, 2 years at that point by the time I found them. But it took me about 2 months to get to affiliate after I started streaming. And I've been slowly building up my base since then, building up my community. A lot of people come into my stream because they're curious to see what this bead embroidery thing is. They've never seen it before. They're curious. They want to know more. And so I show them. And so that's what I do. But yeah, I mean, that's how a lot of people come in, is they come in because they're like, oh, what's this you're working on? So I tell them, I show them what I'm working on, show them what I do, maybe throw a few links at them for information. My mods have been great at it. One of my mods, CC Chisato, is one of the first people I ever rated on Twitch. She also does bead embroidery, and she does the more Native American style of bead embroidery. She is Native herself. And she beads on leather. The stuff that I can't bead on worth two licks, she makes it look easy. So I mod on her stream these days. She mods on mine, but she became my Twitch sister. And her and I will hang out. I've actually met her in person. She was fun to hang out with. She's a riot. She would definitely be a younger sister for me. But she loves my dogs. She met my dogs. In fact, both my dogs are currently curled up under my desk watching me very intently. But I've met a lot of really cool people here on Twitch, and I would not have done that had I not gotten into streaming. I wouldn't have learned about different suppliers for beads up here in Canada had I not been streaming. Because I moved up here, I'm like, I need Canadian suppliers. It's expensive ordering shit in from the States, even though 90% of my suppliers were in the States. So I found other Canadian streamers that are like, oh yeah, go here and get this here and go there and get that there. And it's like, okay, cool. I've got suppliers now. This is awesome. Um, it's helped a lot. So that's where things went from there. But it's been a great experience to do this, to show people how it's done, to teach people. I have people that have joined up on the beading guild that Cece and I started and are there to learn how to bead. And that is something that we wouldn't have been able to do without Twitch. Because these people come in, they're like, oh, I want to learn how to do that. Cool. I know exactly the place you can go. Here's the Discord server for the guild. Check it out. Sit there and learn. There's lots of people there who bead and we're willing to teach you. There's like 5 of us adminning there. And of the people that do the administration there, we're all experienced beaders. We all have decades of experience doing what we're doing. And, we're willing to teach people. So, with the guild, anybody can join up. Actual members are the ones who stream. But anybody can join up and learn how to bead, hang out, ask questions, So that's how we currently run the guild. But we call it the Bureau of Beadwork. That was a name that one of the budding beaders came up with. She said, how about calling it the Bureau of Beadwork? I go, and she's like, you can call it Bob for short. And we just started laughing. We're like, it's perfect. It's perfect.
Yeah. So I have to ask, where do you think you're going to go with your Twitch? Are you going to expand out of beadwork? I imagine you do some video gaming, but like,
I don't play video games.
Why not?
I actually loathe video games.
Wow, rude.
But I do Gundam models.
You're showing the wrong there you go.
This is a diorama I just finished.
Yeah.
I got to get pictures of this up online. So this is a diorama of a polypod ball, Bandai polypod ball.
It's crazy. That's a lot of time and effort. I used to make terrain for Warhammer.
So here is a Gundam model that I turned into a stone golem.
Okay. I was like, that's no Gundam at all.
No, I turned it into a clockwork stone golem.
I don't know Gundams in the slightest, so...
Yeah. So I do that. Occasionally I paint things up. Occasionally I paint things up like focals and stuff to use in my beadwork. I also do cooking streams.
Okay.
I do cooking streams, on a regular basis, somewhat semi-regular basis from my kitchen. Did some cooking streams this past weekend and earlier last week. And I see a question there about, do I have a guild for women miniatures people? No, I do not.
I don't think there's one just for women. I used to do a lot of
miniature painting up until 2009. And the community I was part of at the time ended up being very toxic, and I walked away from it.
How is it toxic?
Trying to find the best way of explaining this. So they had this thought process where every color you painted had to be highlighted up to white. Now, I don't think if you've never painted, you probably don't understand how difficult that is.
It depends upon what you're building up to a white, sure.
Well, let's look at it this way. They're taking colors like black and brown and red, colors that when you mix them with white, they do weird things, okay?
And
they're
white on top, you need multiple layers.
They're telling you that you have to highlight every color up to white, and I just was like, full stop, this is bullshit. And I entered a miniature painting contest several years in a row for a miniature company in Texas. Okay, actually went to their conventions a few years in a row. And this was back in the 2000s. And 2009, I spent 72 hours painting this little 1.5 inch tall miniature, making a beautiful diorama for it. I thought, okay, this one finally has something that we can work with. And that might actually at least get me an honorable mention. I mean, I wasn't even looking to beat the great people that, do this for a freaking living. I just wanted to have an
Right.
honorable mention. At least say, hey, I made it. And I did the contest, and two things happened. First of all, I didn't even get an honorable mention. But what happened next was what shocked me. I had no less than 5 people come up to me, some of whom were very high level painters who have won numerous contests, and go, why didn't that place? That's beautiful. Why didn't that place? And I just shrugged. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know why they made their decisions the way they did. But to have somebody who's a high level painter come up to me and say that, I mean, it felt good to know that my work was good enough that a high level painter thought that was great. But then I overheard a conversation that I wasn't meant to hear.
Yeah.
And something about, well, we didn't want her to have any kind of prize in the competition because we don't think she fits into our community.
Yikes.
Yeah. And I'm like, all right, I'm done. Fuck you. Fuck your competitions. Fuck y'all.
Yeah.
And I walked away. That was 2009. And, you know, that is what it is. And I see Pix has a question, and he's looking at the negative environmental impacts of the gem mining industry. Okay. So that's a hell of a question to unwrap, Pix, but I'll do my best with it, okay? Now, depending on where you get the stones from, there are various regulations in place to protect the environment. When you're mining opals in Australia, for instance, there are regulations you must follow. One of that is that when you are done with the site, you must return it to what it looked like when you got it. So you have to put that site back to what it looked like when you first started, and there can't be any negative impacts. In other words, there can't be like mining tailings leaching uranium into the water. You can't have any of that shit. You have to have cleaned all that up. Okay, that's in Australia. And I know that because I know several opal miners. I actually follow one of them on Facebook. I've met him at the Tucson Gem shows. I've seen pictures of him 150, 200 feet down inside a stone tunnel that he has dug into the side of a mountain chasing an opal vein in, the Lightning Ridge mine area of Australia. So, and we're talking the outback, where it's like 120 degrees Fahrenheit outside, and he's down inside this pit. And it's interesting to hear how he says the temperature changes going in, because he's sitting in there inside this mine in shorts and a t-shirt, mining away, collecting bags of rock. And he says the temperatures sometimes can get upwards to 150 degrees Fahrenheit where he is down inside that mine. Because even though he's got rock all around him, and usually rock will be cooler, because of where he is in the layers, it gets hotter. So, that's one of the things you got to deal with is temperature control too in mines, because mining conditions can be wild. He is thankfully a sole proprietor. He does the mining himself. And so he's got very limited impact on the pit land where he is, because he's just got one pit that he has to fill in when he's done with the mining claim. But other mines, it depends on the country you're in, what regulations they have, and how they can limit the impacts environmentally. Some of the loosest regulations are in the United States, China, India. These are places of your loosest regulations. Your most strict regulations are Australia, Namibia in Africa. And there's an interesting thing about Namibia in Africa, okay? Namibia, when they came together as a nation, they put environmental conservation into their constitution. It is physically in their constitution. It is very hard to get a mining permit in Namibia if you cannot prove that what you are doing will not harm the environment. You don't get a mining permit. Period. End of story.
That's crazy. Other things that involve it is like the acid rock drainage that'll kill your fish, kill your water. There's all sorts of environmental impacts. Like, honestly, I don't even think we know all of them to really cover them all, because it also depends where you're digging, what you're digging, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and there are problems down in the Southwest with uranium mines. The Navajo Nation Reservation does not have drinkable groundwater. They have to bring in all of their water from the outside, because all of their wells are contaminated with uranium from the uranium mines in and around the Grand Canyon area.
Why are they so concerned? Like, doesn't the uranium just give them extra energy? Like, do they even need energy drinks over there?
Uranium causes cancer. It causes other health problems. Literally, I have seen them bring the water out of the tap, and if you want to look at a difference, they show a bottle of regular, good old-fashioned tap water from the reservation, and one from 150 miles away in a regular township. And it's like looking at night and day. The stuff from the township, gorgeous, clean, beautiful drinking water. The stuff that they get on their reservation is literally brown. And if you put it under a black light, it fucking glows.
I was just making a reference. Maybe I'm too much of a safety guy, but the original energy drinks were designed because people thought you were running out of energy. And so they put radioactive isotopes like uranium and strontium into water and sold it as energy drinks.
Oh, God.
Yeah,
I didn't know that one, Zam. It's a good thing I never got into energy drinks.
People are special. I often wonder about how much we actually know about what's in our food nowadays. Like, I feel like the original energy drink was only invented in like the 1800s, and we were drinking radioactive water. Hell, even during World War II, we had women painting radioactive stuff on watches so they'd glow in the dark, and so they were losing all their teeth and lips. Like, holy cow, how much do we actually know about what we eat? That concerns me almost every day. But anyways.
Yeah, the radium girls. The radium girls. Those are the ones that painted the watches and stuff.
Yes. Yeah. There's a lot of environmental stuff we still don't understand to this day. And I think that it'll take a lot more atrocities until we fully understand a lot more. But that's not about anything linked to your past, your history. What I'm here to learn more about you is not how terrible humans are. What I did want to know is, like, I asked this question to everybody who's a streamer on my stream. What is the worst thing that you've ever incorporated in your stream? It could have been a channel point reward, a bot, something. What is the worst thing that you added to your stream?
Worst thing I added to my stream was a channel point redemption for wearing hats. Because I had like 5 or 6 different hats, and they could, redeem like 2,000 points for a hat or whatever. And I finally had to axe that completely and just put it down to 1 channel point redeem, and you had to name which hat it was. Because people were coming in and abusing the absolute piss out of it. Like, they come in and redeem all 5 of them.
Mm-hmm.
which granted you have to have a hell of a lot of channel points to be able to do that, which means you're
Mm-hmm.
hanging out in my stream a lot. But it got annoying real fast because it's like, okay, I don't mind wearing the jester hat. I don't mind wearing the elf hat or the tiara or any of this other stuff. But for the love of God, don't do all of them back to back.
Yep. So your worst redeems was it wearing multiple hats?
Yes. And
Okay.
so I put it down to one redeem with a cooldown of an hour on it, and you had to list one hat that you wanted me to wear.
Yeah, naturally. What is the best thing you've added to your stream?
Probably giving my dogs a treat because I give my dogs treats on stream.
Really? What kind of treats do they like?
People
Would you,
love to see my dogs.
oh yeah?
Yeah.
I feel like I know I have a bird camera, so it checks out. Everybody loves animals.
Yes.
Okay, interesting. What kind of schedule do you run on your stream?
Okay. So Friday and Saturday nights, 7 p.m. Pacific, usually, unless I've got something weird going on with the in-laws. Friday, Saturday, 7 p.m. Pacific is my normal schedule for doing bead embroidery, and I usually go until about midnight. Sometimes I leave a little earlier, depends on how tired I am from the work week. Again, depends on things going on, around me. For those of you who don't know, my in-laws are elderly. My father-in-law is 88. He has dementia. My mother-in-law is 79. She has lupus, and she recently broke her hip, which that's been a nightmare to deal with. So we've been dealing with all of that. That's only been over the past month that we've had to deal with broken hip. And that really, really like put a huge monkey wrench in the works. For like 2 weeks, I didn't stream because we were over at the in-laws every single day. I was cooking a meal every single day, taking it over to them because my mother-in-law can't get up and cook, not with a broken hip. That ain't happening. And my father-in-law, you need to keep an eye on him because he no longer has any basis in reality. So he goes up to my mother in law the first day she's home from the hospital after getting her hip replaced. She's walking around with a walker. He goes up to her and slaps her on the ass and hits her incision. I have never heard such a blood curdling scream in my life from her. And I immediately launched myself with my bad knee and my bad hips off the chair over there, ran out to the deck where she was walking around for fresh air. Tears are streaming down her face, and she does this little pantomime to me of what my father in law did to her. And I'm just like, oh God. So we are currently in the process of trying to get a social worker in to assess him for a memory care facility because he no longer understands the word no. He doesn't understand don't do that. He can still walk around. Physically, he is doing amazing. Mentally, he is gone. He does not know the day, the month, the year, or the time of day. Um, he has looked at both myself and my mother-in-law a few times and thought we were his sister. His sister died 15, 20 years ago. So it's been very rough dealing with that. We moved up here to basically be near them because we knew things were getting bad. We moved up here in May of 2022. We sold our house in Arizona and came north. So it's been very rough dealing with that. And I have to say that I'm probably going to go postal on somebody if they don't do something for my father in law to get him the help he needs. My mother in law has, up until breaking her hip, she'd been absolutely resistant to the idea of getting in somebody clean her house for her, absolutely resistant to the idea of getting any help from my father in law. She felt she could handle it all herself. And she realized real fast she can't do it all herself. So we are looking at her selling the house. She will move probably into our basement suite. And on the other side of things, we're looking at getting my father-in-law into some sort of memory care facility because he can't function.
I know that feeling. I had to deal with that several years ago with my own grandparents. My grandfather was like your mother-in-law, and my grandmother had Alzheimer's, and so it was a really rough time. And so I definitely can commiserate with you, and I'm sorry that you have to go through that because I understand where you want to go postal because it's not easy to get those people the help that they need. And in fact, my both of those grandparents I lost during COVID, one to COVID, and one because of the lockdown. So I have very specific opinions on the lockdown and COVID situation because I've been on both sides. But it's one of those situations where you know the end is coming and it's just going to be painful the entire time, and you get to a point, at least I got to a point, where you just want them to pass so that you don't have to be drugged down as far as they go down their path of not knowing what's going on. Like, we couldn't even take my grandma out for dinner without her panicking, going like, I don't know where I am, I don't know you. It was heartbreaking, and it's
Yeah,
even
my
more heartbreaking
father-in-law,
when they
we can't
pass.
take him out to dinner anymore because his thing is within 5 minutes, I'm bored. I want to go home. I'm bored. I don't want to be here.
That's gonna be me so badly. Oh my god. I don't like that. That sounds exactly like me in the future.
He's an 88-year-old toddler because he
Mm.
doesn't listen anymore. So this is the reason why we need to get him assessed. He is going to either get himself killed or injured, or he's going to get my mother-in-law killed or injured because he's doing really stupid things. Okay. They have a staircase that goes up to the main part of their house from the entry level floor. And on the second floor of the house is the kitchen, the living room, the bedrooms, all that stuff. There is this massive light about 18 feet up over the stairs that you really can't reach without proper equipment. And you're best off having a professional go up there, remove light bulbs, put new ones in. They've got the ladders and all that. My mother in law's in the hospital getting her surgery and everything and recovering. And my husband's sister and brother in law were staying there at the house because they knew my father in law could not be alone. Okay. My husband's brother in law looks over and sees my father in law reaching over the railing on the staircase to reach a light that is blown out 18 feet up over the stairs. So he's literally got most of his body over the railing, reaching over to unscrew this light bulb. And he gets the light bulb out. My husband's brother-in-law is screaming at him, "Don't do that. You're going to fall. Don't do that. You're going to fall." He gets the light bulb out. And they think that they've got him to just calm down finally, because he'll start obsessing about things and he has to take care of whatever he's obsessing about. And so they figure that's the end of it. My husband's brother-in-law goes off to use the bathroom, comes back and finds my father-in-law with a new light bulb reaching over and putting it in place into the fixture, putting himself in danger because if he falls over that railing, he's a dead man. Okay, it's an 18-foot drop down onto the stairs. We're not even talking a flat surface. We're talking stairs.
And an old man.
Yeah.
He won't bounce. He'll crack.
Yeah. Well, we already know he'll crack because during the pandemic, late 2020, he fell halfway down those stairs and broke his C3 vertebrae in his neck. And the C3 is what governs your heart and lungs. Somehow that man managed to stand up and walk away from it. Went to the hospital. They put him in the proper, neck brace and everything. And he had to wear that for 3 months while his neck healed. But after that is when the dementia sank in really bad and started getting worse. Before that, he had been fine. But he's done things like that. The other one, and this one's the really scary one, They have 2 gas fireplaces in the house.
Mm-hmm. As you
Okay?
do.
Yeah. Their house is on the older side, was built in the 70s, but they have 2 gas fireplaces, one in the family room, one in the living room. And so he went to start them. They weren't working. Okay. My mother-in-law's like, fine, I'll call the people who, maintain them, come out, inspect them, fix them, whatever needs to be done. Okay. My father-in-law only heard they're not working. He didn't hear the rest of it. His mind went tunnel vision. He starts fiddling with all the little dials and buttons and everything else in there. Can't figure. We're smelling gas. We're like, Dad, don't touch it. Leave it for the professionals. Stop touching it. Wouldn't listen to us. Wouldn't listen to us. Finally, she gets a professional out there because she calls somebody and gets them out there. Finally got him away from the darn things. What they found was that he had been fiddling with the valves in the basement and had somehow turned off the gas to the fireplaces. What was he even doing touching the valves to the fireplaces in the first place? So he can't be trusted with anything. And he can't be left alone because you never know what he's going to do. He literally could have blown their house sky high.
Yep.
So this is what we're dealing with. And thankfully, my workplace has, at least up until recently, they have been decent, okay, about the whole thing. I tell them, hey, in-law emergency, I'm checking in, just let you know I'm dealing with that. I'll be back to work in a bit, But yeah, it's been very rough.
I can understand, and that obviously impacts your schedule, as you can see.
And so, we've been my mother-in-law checks in with us by email every single day. If there's a dire emergency, she picks up the phone and calls us because we're 10 minutes away. We live 10 minutes away from her. Okay.
Yep.
So we can be there like that. As for hubby's sister and brother-in-law, okay, they're 45 minutes to an hour away, depending on traffic. So we can be there a hell of a lot faster if there's an emergency. The problem is hubby doesn't have POA. His sister has POA.
Okay, yeah.
That we've run into a problem with that already. So we're trying to get that fixed because when we lived down in the States, that's when my mother-in-law signed POA to her daughter because, being that we were in the States, she figured that would be too much of a hassle for us.
Right.
So we're trying to get that all fixed now, okay? But we've already run into a problem with that because technically they're not supposed to tell anything to my husband or myself because neither of us is POA or health proxy or anything like that. So we're trying to get that fixed. I was actually shocked when I was with my mother-in-law. This was the night after she had broken her hip. She's laying in the ER on a gurney being taken care of by people. And I'm there keeping her company for a few hours. And what I will forever want to build an altar to this doctor and tell him thank you. Okay? This older doctor comes in. I know he's got to be close to retirement because he had absolutely no fucks left to give. Okay? None.
And he also did diagnosis.
Comes up, looks at my mother-in-law and says, you are here right now because you are doing too much for your husband and it's wearing you down. And he was absolutely 100% right because my mother-in-law fell because she had to go to the ICBC office with my father-in-law, get him a new health care card because he lost his health care card. And so she fell at the ICBC office, tripping over her own cane. So she wouldn't have been there if he hadn't lost his card. But she is doing everything for him, even though we have told her, if you need something, let us know. We will go take care of it. She would prefer to do it herself. So she's been working herself to the bone trying to take care of my father-in-law. And look where it got her. And This doctor, has my praises because he looked at her and said, you can't keep doing this. You're going to put yourself into a grave doing this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, thank you, Lord. Thank you.
Yeah. Fair enough. Well, I'm glad you're taking it all with stride, and I'm sorry to hear that you're going through it. I've gone through it. I feel like so many people have gone through it. What do you think is the best advice you can give for people that might be going through your same situation?
Know your rights, know the rights of the patients, um, know how to get a hold of a social worker. We had to go researching how to find a social worker that can assess my father-in-law. They had a social worker that in the hospital came and assessed my mother-in-law, and that was fine. But they haven't had one come out and assess my father-in-law. We have now made two phone calls have been made. There was one that was made a couple weeks ago. There was supposed to be a social worker out at the house last week to assess my father-in-law. Nobody showed up.
Huh.
So my mother-in-law made another call today, and she got a voicemail, so she left a message. But this is not promising. But know where to go to get a proper social worker for the person who needs the care. Because obviously the person who needs the care, at least in my father-in-law situation, doesn't have the mental capacity to, take care of calling people to get himself help. So he's got to rely on other people to do it. So my mother-in-law's been doing it. Hubby's sister should be doing it since she's got POA, but she's not. So we're hoping that at some point we can step in if there's a problem and call a social worker. And I had a good laugh earlier today. Hubby's sister emails all of us and says, well, here's the information and the case number for getting a social worker for dad. Somebody needs to call. It's like, well, wait a minute. You're the POA. What gives here? You're POA. You're the one who should be making this call, or mom should be making the call, because technically myself and hubby can't do it. We're not POA. I mean, hubby is her son. On that note, he might get through to somebody, but I don't know how much he can do without POA.
Yep.
So know your rights, know what you can do and what you're not able to do, and know who can help you. That's your biggest pieces of advice.
Okay. That's wonderful advice. When this is all over and said and done, do you plan to go back down to Arizona?
Fuck no.
Why not?
Arizona, okay, no offense to those people
really
in chat
hot.
that might live in Arizona right now, but Arizona, it has some of the most backwards people I have ever met.
How so? Let's
Politically
insult
speaking,
everyone
they
from
would shoot
Arizona.
themselves in the foot. They would rather shoot themselves in the foot than do something that would help them. And Miko, in your chat, yes, Miko is one of the people from my stream. She's in Arizona. She knows. And I also got very scared living in Arizona because
Why?
the first year we were there, we had bought a house, and about 10 minutes from us was the Phoenix Mesa Gateway Airport. Okay, it's a regional airport. They do the overflow for Sky Harbor Airport.
Yeah.
We're driving down the highway next to the airport, and over on the other side, parked up against the fence for the airport, is an entire convoy of white supremacists flying all their little white supremacist flags and swastikas and everything else.
At an airport?
At an airport. They're lined up along the fence. And I'm like, I looked at my husband, I said, we need to get out of here.
Huh. Okay. I would never have pegged that many white supremacists to even exist in the first place, but okay. Wow.
That was my first dealing with that. Okay, that was 2014. Okay, 2014. And I started, I was always kept to myself. I'm not somebody to go out there and just go up to random people and start talking bullshit about things. That's not me. Okay, I don't do that. My father's like that. I am not like that. I call my father the social butterfly. I am not like him, thank God. So I would rather stand there or sit there and observe people. Great skill if you're an anthropologist, by the way, is observing people, because that's how you do your studies and learn things.
Yeah.
So my neighbors, I came to know over the next couple of years, I had two different sets of neighbors. Okay. We had the neighbors across the street who were former military, very nice people. We had the neighbors down the road that I discovered were anti-immigrant, racist, a few other adjectives, and could be outwardly toxic people. And
I'm
I said,
outwardly
okay, these are the
toxic.
people on my cul-de-sac. Awesome. And I just, it just got worse from there. It's like I started getting to know all the people on the cul-de-sac where we bought a house, because we had a small cul-de-sac. It was a small community. We were on a county island outside the town of Queen Creek. And county islands, for those of you who don't understand the concept, this is land in a state that is unincorporated. So it doesn't belong to a city or a town. It belongs to a county, and that's about it. Okay? Some of it's even state land. It's just unincorporated. And so we paid taxes to the town so we could have services, but we weren't part of the town, yet our address was for the town. It made no sense, but whatever. We're on this little cul-de-sac. Oh, Zena's Twitch knows exactly where I lived. You see that area now? Yeah, I'm aware of how bad it is. So all I know, it was an absolute nightmare living there. I could not, because I am not a Christian, I could not wear any religious jewelry out in public.
Okay.
Because I would be a target. Because I wasn't Christian.
Okay.
It was really freaking weird. People don't understand how weird it is out in some of the backwater areas in Arizona. And I call it backwater, but we were only about an hour outside of Phoenix. We were literally a highway drive away from Phoenix. It wasn't like it was that far away. We worked only a half hour away from where we lived, and that was in one of the suburbs to Phoenix. And Ibex, that's exactly what I was dealing with. Exactly what I was dealing with in Arizona.
That's where I don't deal with much racist anything aside from what's online. So my perspective has always been that there isn't that many people who are racist and that everybody's blowing it out of proportion. But hey, if you say it exists, then I'll believe you. But
you've been in Canada your whole life.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, coming up here was a breath of fucking fresh air.
Well, I imagine so, because we've got the beautiful mountains and a lot of less population density and therefore less pollution.
It wasn't even just that. It was the fact that you have people up here that are much more open and accepting of other people.
Okay. I wouldn't know, again, because I don't. I frankly think it's a boogeyman, and I look at that from my call me privileged or whatever the hell you want to call it. I like to think positively about people that these are definitely blown out of proportion. So it's interesting for me to hear your stories of having to experience that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, I wish we didn't have to experience that sort of stuff, and I feel like perhaps maybe I have rose-tinted glasses on, but it should be my way. I'm just going to say it. It should be my way. The way I perceive the world should be the way the world should exist.
Yeah. I wish that the world was a nice place. I really do. But it definitely isn't in certain areas.
So does that mean you're going to stay out, I assume, in BC, or would you move somewhere else in Canada?
Hubby and I right now, as it stands right now, and this is subject to change, once his parents are gone, we are looking at selling this house and moving north to Canal, BC.
Okay.
No, Canal, BC. It's about 6 hours from here.
Yeah.
The cost of living there versus the cost of living here is night and day. Okay. Our house here, okay, average family home in the Vancouver area is $1.2 million, and that's on a postage stamp piece of land. Our house costs 1.4.
Yeah.
We're barely affording this mortgage. Okay? It's not fun. And that's just to have a roof over our head.
Yeah. That, I
Okay?
argue that's a lot of places in Canada these days. The house economy is
Up north,
shit.
up north in Canal, a bigger piece of land, same size house, $380,000 is the average price. Night and day. So you're literally looking at something that is a third of the cost of what we paid here.
Yeah. But the problem is nobody wants to live there, and I then ask the question of, is the internet good there?
Oh, it's fine up there. We've gone up there and visited friends. They have fiber internet. They
Wow.
have all
I
of
don't
the
even have
amenities you
fiber.
need. They've got a hospital. They've got doctor's offices, dentists. They've got several grocery stores. They've got shopping areas. I mean, they've got everything.
Wow.
So everything you could want is there.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, I would ask questions of like why you moved to Vancouver in the first place, because I think that's the second most priciest place in Canada.
Here in the first place because this is where the in-laws are.
Naturally, I obviously knew the answer, but like that's expensive. Why can't you just have the in-laws move up north?
Yeah, and that the in-laws weren't moving. As it stands, it took my mother-in-law falling and breaking her hip for her to even consider selling the house.
Yeah,
She
that's
was
fair.
not going to sell that house for anything. She wanted to live there with my father-in-law till the day they both passed. Even though it's hard for her to get around that house because it's multiple stories and she has to use a chairlift to get up and down the stairs. She
Yep.
was refusing to sell that house. And now that it's just going to be her and my father-in-law hopefully will go into a memory care facility. It is a situation where she's finally realized that, oh yeah, I can't take care of this house on my own. I'm going to have to sell it. She's finally come to grips with reality.
Fair enough.
And she'll
So
be moving into our basement when that happens.
that's even better, I think, having them in the same house.
Well, we have a basement suite in this house that we're not using. We basically have it for storage right now.
Oh, hey.
It's a full basement suite. It's a kitchen, it's a bathroom, it's a living area, it's a bedroom. She's got everything she needs there. We just need to get it cleaned out and get a few things taken care of. Like we need to get the bathroom set up so she can literally walk into the shower instead of step over a tub to get into it. Just get a few things like that fixed and put together. But it'll be a much nicer setup for her because it's all one level. The only stairs are if she really wanted to come up to the main floor of our house, which she doesn't have to do. We can come down there and see her a hell of a lot easier than she can come up and see us.
Yeah. Fair enough. So basically, you're working with the in-laws. You're working with that situation, working on your Twitch. You plan to move up north. Will you have a job up north, or are you going to focus more on the beading and Twitch side of
I
things?
am trying to find a 100% remote job that I can take with me.
Okay. Do you think that Twitch is
Hubby,
going to be around at that point? Because I don't know where I peg Twitch to be in the future.
Twitch has its own set of issues, and I don't know what they're going to do about them. I don't know how they're going to iron them out. I don't count on streaming as being a form of income, because Twitch is Twitch. It's got its own set of issues. What I do is that I want to keep looking for another 100% remote job that will let me work anywhere, so that way I can take it with me up north. Just like hubby's job will let him work anywhere. He works 100% remote. He literally helps program firewalls for a living.
I'm jealous. I can't work remotely, so that's not an option for me.
No, you have a different kind of skill set. I work as a technical writer at my day job. So I take documents that people have written overseas in English that isn't exactly the greatest looking English, and I make it into a pretty beautiful, readable document that can then be put out online for customers to use.
Fair
So
enough.
that's what I do.
I should have you do that for every single chat I send. I tell you what, Oh boy, my writing is terrible online.
Anyways, um, I need to run real quickly, and
I
these
was
little girls.
looking to end it, so the only thing I wanted to end with is, did you have anything big coming up that you wanted to shout out
I have my stream anniversary this weekend.
this
It'll
weekend?
be
Yep.
4 years on
Saturday.
4 years on Twitch.
Okay.
It's going to be this weekend. I'm holding it on Saturday, 7
Okay.
p.m. Pacific. I'm looking to start.
Okay.
So that's the big thing coming up.
Okay. That's the only thing coming up.
It's the only thing coming up.
Okay. Well, I will see you there regardless. And aside from that, anything else that you wanted to shout out before we end here?
We're good.
Okay, well, thank you so much for being a part of this, and I appreciate you hopping on at the drop of a hat. I hope you have good luck in the bathroom, and I'll talk to you next time.
All right, thank you.
Goodbye.